Well, hi, tell us your name and the career that you have chosen to pursue.
Hi, Chris. My name is Cindy Allen, and I was a teacher from the time I was 6 years old and came home from school and practiced whatever happened throughout the entire day for my friend Mary and the rest of my imaginary class.
Oh, how fun. So, after you were six, you pursued education for a little while. What was your formal education after high school
I went
to
to
become
Michigan.
a teacher?
Sure, I went to Michigan State University, and while there, I was going to go into social work and then changed it to teaching, and was pursuing middle and high school teaching at the time. I loved elementary, but back then it was considered that elementary teachers weren't as smart as middle and high school teachers.
Ah.
And I took pride in the fact that I was smart. So therefore, it was kind of a strange time of the year, a time of life, I guess. So
Do you think that stereotype is still out there? Like, it,
I think it can be because as elementary teachers, that we are nurturers and we're child oriented. But in order to be creative, I think you have to be bright. And so therefore, I think that being a teacher means thinking on your feet all the time, and you have to have a quick brain to be able to do it.
Cindy, how do you know if you would make a good teacher?
The first
Like
thing
you had
is,
lots of practice if you started when you were six, but
I
how do you
did,
know
I
if you're
did.
good at that? Like who it makes a good teacher, I guess.
First of all, somebody that loves what they do. That is the most critical thing. I don't care what your profession is. If you don't love it, you should not be doing it because you do it for a lot of your life and it shows in everything you do, what your actual passion is. And the second thing is that the desire to make a contribution to the world. And for me, I have about 350 children that know how to read because even though I started out in middle school and high school, I the reason I ended up in elementary for most of my career was because I had a lot of middle school students who could not read, and I was teaching English at the time. And it was a lower income school, and I was appalled that I had so many students that could not read at the level of a middle school student, let alone high school. So I promised myself if I ever went back to teaching after I stopped to have children, I would teach reading and that nobody would be allowed to get out of my class unless they could read.
Wow. So you made a pretty significant pivot in the middle of your professional career. How long did it take you to realize that you wanted to change to a lower grade level? How
Well,
long were you working?
it's kind of a funny story, and I will try not to take too long. But what happened was is that I stopped after I was teaching middle and high schools. I had a baby and stopped teaching for a number of years.
Okay.
And when I went back to work or decided that it was time, all my kids had gone into school and I needed to do something besides clean the house, I went back to get certified and was going to get my master's degree, my MBA, because I wanted to be a sophisticated person that walked around with a briefcase and did important things. And in that process, I had to take a class that was a math class to be able to get my grad entrance exam. And I was teaching somebody next to me how to do something, and he looked at me and he said, "You're a really good teacher." And I thought, "You're right. Why am I going back and doing this? I have four children and a husband that is doing big things all the time and two houses to take care of. I'm not flying around the country with an MBA." So I went back and certified in elementary, which is how I ended up fulfilling my dream of teaching children how to read. And to this day, I use Skittles as a means of enticing children to be motivated to read. I was known as the Skittle lady as far as school is concerned. Everybody came to me, the janitors, the cleaning people, the secretaries, to get their fill of Skittles. But in that process, I taught a lot of kiddos to read, and I'm still in contact with probably 40 or 50 of my students through Facebook and just keeping track of them. So, and I became known as the reading lady. So that's how it happened.
So if a young person is watching this video and they're sure they're being pulled into the teacher career path. You had mentioned certification. What kind of education do you have to have? You go to college first, and then tell us a little bit about the certification process that
The
you mentioned.
certification process has gotten much better. One of the things is that if you start out and you just go to college and you get 2 years as your beginning classes, and then you usually declare your major. And if you decide to go into education, they have as a prerequisite now that you visit classrooms and actually do some observations, which I believe is good no matter what occupation you want to go into. You really should follow somebody or get to see exactly what their day looks like. Then the second thing is that you graduate from college with that degree that allows you to certify either elementary, middle school, high school, and that now you apparently have to take a test after you graduate to be able to make sure that you qualify as far as being a teacher is concerned. And then depending on what you want to do, I ended up going back to grad school and got a extra certificate, my master's degree in reading, and also one in early childhood education. So I did a double major in that. So consequently, it was easier for me to find a job. Nowadays, it is very easy to find a job because teaching, unfortunately, does not pay extraordinarily well. And so and there's a lot of pressures with being a teacher. And consequently, a lot of people are opting to do other things, partly because of the money, I think, and partly because of the pressures. And so that makes it difficult, I think, as far as people that want to go into the profession to make sure you really want to do that. Um,
So
so
what happens if you get into a program, say the one you were in at Michigan State, and you do the student teaching and it just does not fit? Are there enough, is there enough variety that inside you really feel like you want to be a teacher, but your student teaching experience isn't what you expected? What would be your advice for those people?
Oh, I think that's a great question. I think back when I was also, I did a lot of, I took care of a lot of student teachers along the way in my teaching career. And I had a few that were obviously not designed to be teachers. And I had to be very honest with them and say, look, this is not the right world for you. And so, but fortunately, there's a lot of other options as to what you can do once you're in college, just in the fact that you're getting through 4 years is unto itself a big accomplishment. And a lot of people don't decide right away, and they need an extra year of college to maybe be able to complete the courses that they need. But I think also that if you are prepared to know what you're getting into by having seen it ahead of time, which is a lot different than it was back in my day. Some of the people that I had as student teachers had never been in a classroom until they became a student teacher. So they've already been through like 4 years and they're at their last semester before they're going to graduate and discover this isn't really what I want to do. So I think this program is really good for children and adults even that want to go back to figure out what you want to do.
So, who makes a good teacher? Like, what are the characteristics of someone? You said they have to love what they do, which I agree with that, but does it take a certain kind of person to be a teacher? And is
Yes,
that different between the different levels of education, like kindergarten to 12th grade? Are they different types of personalities, or who makes a good teacher?
I've got a lot of friends that are teachers and there are a lot of different personalities. But for me, first of all, you're the sage on the stage. And so consequently, I think being able to capture people's attention. And one of the ways I used to do it was with humor and with being fun. I just like to have fun and I loved what I was doing and it showed. The second thing is I really liked the kids I dealt with. Maybe I didn't love all of them as exactly the same, but I also I knew each one of them and I took into account their individual situations. And so consequently, I developed a really strong relationship with my students. So you have to want to get to know people and to be a people person. If you're not, teaching really isn't the job for you. The other thing is to be creative because good teachers are creative with the information that they have to convey. And the fourth thing is I highly recommend you invest in either Skittles or as they get, I actually started out with Jolly Ranchers in middle and high school, but then I was afraid my elementary students might choke on them. So
Joke.
I was, and it was also cheaper to get Skittles and I could use a lot more. So I kind of thought of it in terms of feeding the dolphins as far as training children to read. And the other thing that I did do, which I know you probably can't do anymore, but since I was an older lady by the time I started teaching the elementary students, I could put them on my lap and we read with them on my lap. And so I don't think probably most people could get away with that today. But there was a real connection with kids about feeling the power of reading by also the fact that I was enjoying it too. So that
It's such an important profession in this country, around the world, but our children need really good teachers for sure. So, young people who are considering this path, are they welcome to communicate with you through our website if they find they have a question for you?
I'd love to talk to any of them. I really would. I have two daughters that are in education
Oh,
and
really?
two in business. And I will tell you, the two in business are making a lot more money than my two in education. But my two in education are passionate about what they do, and they love what they do. And in the long run, if you want something that really makes you want to get up in the morning and take it on, teaching would be the job for you. So.
But there are teaching jobs. I don't want to end on that note saying that teachers don't get paid because there are a variety of options, right? That
There
and
are,
they
but
are. I
unfortunately,
mean, I know it's not the most lucrative profession, but it's a livable income, right?
it was. I think it's becoming less and less, and I think that's one of the things that this country needs to figure out because teachers are not valued in this society like other jobs are. I think that's a big problem, and I'm not sure why it started or where it started. But anybody that has loved their teacher knows that that person made a big impact in that person's life, and consequently, I think that as a society, we need to focus more on, in other countries, teachers are not only honored, but they are also paid much better than they are in this country, which is really kind of an unusual situation. Um,
You're right.
and can you make a living? My one daughter is single, and but she works and she makes, if she lives in Georgia, and it also depends on which state you teach in as to what the income is. So that also makes another criteria. And some states are better paid than others, but also they're also not unions used to be able to help teachers, and that's another thing that's kind of been diluted. So.
Yeah, lots of complications, but
Mhm.
talk about a rewarding and uh, important profession.
I
So we thank
loved
you
what I
for
did.
taking your time. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
I
And
loved what I
I would have
did.
voted for M&Ms, but
Yeah.
if you would
Oh,
have given me skills, I would have eaten them.
The reason I didn't do M&Ms, Chris, was because truthfully,
Yes.
that's my favorite too. And I
Oh,
knew I would be eating all of them. So I didn't like Skittles. So therefore it was a good thing to have in my classroom. So,
well, there's
um,
another thing we have in common. All right.
yes,
Well,
yes.
thank you so much for your time, Cindy. If someone communicates with us, we will be sure to let you know. But thank
Okay.
you for your
Thank you
time
so much.
today.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You
Bye
too. Bye bye.
bye.